And now, before I leave you tonight, I want to shift our attention to something truly special. ShredMentor Rock Guitar Academy. Jason Aaron Wood's unparalleled mastery of guitar technique, coupled with his highly effective teaching style, is nothing short of impressive. If you have ever dreamed of playing like a rock star, this is your chance. Enroll now, and let the music take you on a journey that you'll never forget.
Hey, welcome back to ShredMentor Live. I'm your host, Jason Aaron Wood, and tonight, well, let's just say that if you really liked last week's show about the arpeggio framework, you're really going to love what we talk about tonight. Because that is going to be, well, hidden. Oh, damn, it's not working. That's going to be all about hidden patterns. Oh, it's not working. That is so irritating. Hidden patterns. Oh, that's just really irritating. I had a cool fireball thing and everything. Let's see. It's incredibly irritating. Never mind. Hidden patterns. I had a cool special effect I made just for tonight's show, and it's not happening. So whatever. Oh yeah, because it's in there. There it is. Ha ha. Yeah, okay, yeah. See, screw that one up because I turned my overlays off. Hidden patterns. All right, thank you. This is all for me. Okay. Okay, so a couple things to talk about first, though, okay? And so I think it's probably good if we start off talking about the interesting scale of the week, which probably doesn't seem all that interesting because it's just the natural minor scale. But it is a big part also of why I'm using this monster. And I will talk, this is also a gear talk segment. What we're going to be talking about for the first part of tonight is, oh yeah, let's get the chat up here so you can please let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Oh, because I don't see anything there. Let's see, hold on. Yes, there is signal on the mic, so I see it from my end. Please let me know in the chat that you can hear me. Anyway, the hidden patterns we're going to be talking about, well, on a 6 string, you kind of can't see them because you don't have enough strings to see the pattern start over. So you wouldn't even know that there's a pattern. So that's what I'm going to show you tonight for the beginning part of it. And part of it's going to be based on the natural minor scale, because this is actually one of the things that really helped me to sort of master the fretboard very, very quickly, not just for the natural minor scale, but also extending what I'm going to show you tonight to the harmonic minor scale, just by knowing what the difference between the two formulas is. Okay, so I'm going to be using a 10 string because not only can you see the pattern begin to start over, but, well, you can see it more than just start over. Okay, and what I mean by start over, I'm going to do the E minor scale, which is all the way down here. This is the low E of a 4-string bass, by the way, the same note. Okay, so a minor scale is called a diatonic scale, okay? And a diatonic scale is something that basically it moves in seconds. I believe that is why it's got the di prefix, di, meaning 2. More importantly, what you need to know here is that a diatonic scale contains 7 notes. So when you think about what the natural notes are, the white keys on the piano, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's 7 notes. Every single minor scale is spaced out the same way. Also, Matthew, Darren, and Mike, welcome tonight. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. And hey, Mike, good to see you, man. So when you're dealing with the diatonic scale, there are 7 notes. Typically, we're going to be dealing with 3 notes per string, though. Okay, so if I'm just going to count through. It doesn't really matter what note 1 is, but I want you to see how this ends up working. If I only have 6 strings, I'm not going to get to see the string where I actually start from 1, 2, 3 again. All right, so as I play through, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is where it starts over. 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. All right. So that right there is why I'm using a 10 string tonight. I don't want you to just see where 1, 2, 3 starts again. Because, well, I started on the 10th string, and it started over on the 3rd string, and then continued just like it started before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I'm going to show you something else, though. Okay, that's the reason I'm using a 10 string, though. I want you to see how this pattern actually repeats. So on a 6 string, you really can't see this. If you have a 7 string, though, you still can't see it because there's 7 notes. You need 8 strings to see it start over. With a 7 string, you can see all 7 of the notes of the scale begin what is called a trichord, those little 3 note per string shapes that we play when we play a 3 note per string diatonic scale. But you don't actually see it start over because you need that 1 more string to begin again. So an 8 string will afford you that. So if I start on my 8th string, because I have 2 extras, that's a G, all right? There's my E now, okay? I'm going to start on an E on the G string, okay? So 1, that's E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, not 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here we are over here on the 1st string. 1, 2, 3. Okay? I'm going to be dealing a lot with ascending melodies tonight, but I just wanted to kind of illustrate how this ends up working. In order to see the entire diatonic scale run its course and exhaust each of the 7 notes in whatever order it comes in, you know, every 3 notes basically, because 3 doesn't go into 7, so you have to exhaust all 7 strings first before you see it to start actually starting over. Okay? But that's what I want to draw your attention to tonight, and so that's why the interesting scale of the week, as well as Gear Talk rather, yeah, whatever the hell I call my own segment, is about that. So I'm going to jump over to what would normally be my guitar practice tools thing, but it's all blank tonight. Let's start with the very first one here, okay? And this is what I would call a hidden repeating interval pattern, okay? And so this is a huge fretboard with 24 strings. I just want you to see the patterns repeating, okay? So this is the fingering, and you would basically have this little simple shape here, okay? 2 whole steps, but that goes on for 3 strings. After that, you have a half step and a whole step, and that goes on for 2 strings. You got 2 of them. Then you have another shape, which is a whole step and a half step, and that goes on for 2 strings. That's 3 plus 2 plus 2. That's 7. That is the pattern. Next, we could see it start again. 3 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those. Again, 3 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those, and so on. Okay? I want you to see that so that you can kind of understand what we're looking at. This is the way these shapes repeat. Okay? So I can start with anything at all. It doesn't matter what note it is because all scales work this way. So I'll start at the 3rd fret, and it's going to be on my 10th string. So 3 of these, 2 of these. Now I have a major 3rd in my weird 10 string tuning, so there's going to be places where I have to move up. But 2 of these, 2 of these. After that, it's going to be 3 of these. There it is. So that is basically, you know, let's play that through again. But this time I'm going to show to you, rather than which fingers, okay, I want you to see the scale degrees. And I'm going to do it of the minor scale, okay, because it kind of depends on whether you're trying to do, it doesn't really matter if you're trying to do a major scale or a minor scale, because this is still the repeating pattern. But it kind of depends on which note you're going to treat like the root note. So if you're going for major, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. The minor one is the place where you do, let's see. So that one, where it's whole step, half step, twice. Okay, so I'm going to play the next version of that video. Same idea, okay, but now we're going to see the notes of the scale. In the minor scale, okay, I started down here. This is a C. That's the 7 of D minor. That happened to be D minor just now, all right? So 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So 3 of those, and then we'll move up a fret. 2, 3, 4, normally the same fret, okay? 5, 6, 7, I'm going to move up. This is where the minor scale is, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next string up, we're going to do 3 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those again. until we have obviously run out of strings, okay? 3 of them, 2 of them, 2 of them. I want you to think of that simple repeating interval pattern, a pattern of repeating trichords, okay? Again, a trichord is a 3-note scale fragment. You don't hear about it a lot, but you play it all the time on the guitar because it's just kind of the most efficient use of your hand when you're playing a diatonic scale most of the time. Most of the time. There are exceptions, but since so much of our time as guitarists is dealing with 3-note per string approaches to scales, I want you to see these patterns in a very visual way, okay? I want to make one more note about this. I'm going to show you the major scale version of this in a moment too, but I want to point out that the really crazy 24-string fretboard I'm showing you is sort of the default way that these would proceed across the strings if you were tuned to perfect fourths. That is, if you tuned every string to the 5th fret of the next lower string. Clearly, in real life, we don't do that. There is one place from the 3rd to the 2nd string where we only tune it to the 4th fret, which means they're sort of 1 fret closer. In order to proceed with what I'm showing you on the screen, you need to move from whatever that string is that's only 4 half steps higher. You're going to need to move that and everything higher than that up 1 fret to get 1 extra fret's space or 1 extra half step in between those notes, or else you're going to have a completely different pattern going on, which will not sound good. You're going to suddenly be moving down a half step in key. If you plan it and compose it that way, fine, but don't do it because you made a mistake. Don't compose around your mistake unless it's a really badass mistake. And if it is, keep it and take credit for it because, hey, your mistake, it's yours. But anyway, yeah, so that is one thing I want you to realize, that I'm showing you what it would be. But since most of the intervals between the strings are a perfect fourth, I'm showing you what it would be if it was nothing but fourths, so you can see where it would naturally move up a fret a little bit. Let's take a look at actually the first one again. I want you to just look at that that first video again with just the fingers. Take a look as you go. Just look how it moves up and when it moves up. Hidden repeating interval pattern number 1. Okay, after you do the 3 strings in a row of the whole step pattern, you automatically move up 1 fret. Again, this if your string is a 4th. Okay, if it was a minor, if it's a major 3rd like it is between the G and B strings, you actually have to move an extra fret, so it would be over here at the 2. All right, and that you would actually move it there. Then it would normally be the same fret, and it would continue like that all the way through the next 2 shapes, and then the 3 whole steps again. You only really move up 1 time when it goes into the half step whole step. That's the typical pattern if you were in all fourths. Anytime you have a major 3rd, you have to add an extra fret. That's it. That's the only adjustment, okay? And it's a necessary evil. It's part of the way the guitar is tuned, and it makes chords in a lot of different shapes a lot more playable, but it's just one little thing you just got to remember every time you're about to cross the gap between those 2 strings or any 2 strings that have a major 3rd, because as I said earlier, my 7th and 6th string, I actually tuned my lowest 4 strings up on this. I've got enough range. That's the low A of a 5-string bass tuned down a whole step, or in other words, the low A of a piano, the lowest note of a piano. I've got the space, I've got the range. I don't need an A flat that badly. So I happen to tune this for my own reasons because I want to do crazy, ridiculous 10-string sweeps on it. And this makes it a lot easier because my strings 10 through 5, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 are the same relationship as strings 6 through 1. So I can play all my E string based. There's a C chord type shape. Here's a G chord shape. And so on. There's a minor. So if anybody's, if everybody wants to be like, hey man, how do you play chords on it? Like that. That's right. So anyway, because of that, I have 2 places on my guitar that I have to remember. Oh crap, there it is. And I have to remember which strings they're at. It's just part of part of using that, but it's a trade-off. It's a nice trade-off too, because I don't have to remember exactly what note I'm on all the time. It's nice to get there, but it takes it actually takes a major load off of my concentration if I especially want to go, like a one of these. If I only do one of them and move to another shape, it's like I played the lower one in this case. So this is the 3, 2, 1 out of that shape. 3, 2, 1. And then here's the 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So the 2 half step, whole step. And then there should be 3 of these. Now I'm going to go into the other shape. Got to jump over an extra fret. And I end on a D. I just chose D minor at random. Okay, but that's something you got to remember. If you're only playing one of a shape and then you're moving to another shape, it's because you're on the last one in that direction. That's basically it. So we're going to get to that again when we talk about our next pattern. But I just want to just kind of really flesh out this 3 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these kind of, repeating interval pattern shape from a major scale perspective. Okay, so let's take a look at this from the same video again, but this time it's from a major scale perspective. Okay, so instead of the lower shape out of the whole step, half step shape, like what we had here, you see where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is. Move up a couple strings there. Minor starts here. See that? Okay. Major starts here. What looks like number 3 right there is what we're going to see in a second as the beginning of the major scale. It starts on the middle string out of those 3 right there. So here we are. Okay. Now, same shape exactly, but different numbers because we're counting from a different note as 1. Major still starts there. Minor still starts there. Minor looks like 6 now. Okay. But here it is. 3 of these. You can see where your root note is. That's where the major scale resolves. That number 1 right there. Then you have 2 of these. And then this other shape here, 2 of these. Okay. Eventually, you basically just play it until you run out of strings because that's what's going to happen. Even if you have I'm going to trust that some of you might have a 7 string. Maybe even a couple of you have an 8 string. You probably don't have a 10 string. Very few people I know have it. There's plenty of people out there that have them. They sell them, but they're pretty rare. Most of you are going to see it on a 6 string, okay? So anyway, it still works the same way. It's just where you're going to land as home base is going to be a little bit different. But that's it. 3 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these. So you have 3 shapes. Whole step, whole step. You do 3 in a row, okay? Basically, if you're at the beginning of your major scale. If I go to G, for G major, right? If I go up a string, that's the shape in that direction. If I go down a string, oops, I have to, again, because of my tuning, normally this would be the same fret, and I forgot. But yeah, in my case, I have to actually go down an extra fret because my 2 strings, in that case, my 6th and 7th string are only 4 half steps apart, not 5 because of my particular tuning. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. Please let me know in the chat if you want me to explain that a little bit further, but that is sort of what's going on as you get across your strings and run out of strings. You're so close to the pattern that you can't actually see enough. You don't have enough strings to be able to see it beginning to repeat. So I want to point that out because when I was learning my 3 note per string scales and learning my fretboard as in general, I will give this extra practice tip. I was using the sequence of 6s, okay, which is kind of what I did as a demonstration of that. But again, just so basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, and 6 become the new 1, 2, and 3 of the next 6 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that 4, 5, 6 becomes the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So every time I do this, all I really have to do is think about the next 3 notes. I don't have to store an entire extra 6 notes because the first 3 notes of what I'm about to play are whatever last 3 notes I just played. All right, and so I want to point out one important thing about this too. I'm showing you some stuff about scale knowledge and fretboard knowledge. But I want to remind you that it's not a race across the neck, okay? It's very important to know this stuff, but it's not a rush. There's no race, there's no priority. There's a false priority placed on learning the whole neck like way too soon, okay? If you can do it really soon, that's great, but most people can't. And any kind of amount of like quality that you would be hoping to get, like, and really know it inside and out, you're not going to get that in the first day, probably not even the first week. And it's important to know it inside and out and in your sleep, not to know it right away, okay? So don't even worry about getting it right away. Get to the point where you know the patterns just inside and out, which means don't try to get all the way across the neck right away. That's not the goal. That is not even important right now. Knowing it inside and out in your sleep without a guitar, like walking around in a convenience store in the air, playing informed air guitars, being able to do that in your head, being able to do that without a guitar anywhere near you and you're clicking in MIDI and know that on the piano roll. knowing the interval patterns in threes like this, okay? So you can write out concepts for your guitar, or just tabbing things out even without a guitar handy, okay? Knowing that your scale repeats this way is really, really helpful, but don't feel like you have to do the whole thing. This will help you get all the way across, knowing that there's 3 of the 2 whole steps, and then 2 of the half step whole step, and then 2 of the whole step half step. That is the repeating pattern. So wherever you happen to start, something might be truncated by running out of strings in one direction or the other, but you don't have to do anything more than a couple strings at a time. And so when I did practice, a lot of the time, this is a pattern I actually discovered maybe a month or 2 into discovering the sequence of sixes, but it's something that I realized like 2003-ish. I kind of just stumbled onto this, and I've just been using it ever since without even thinking about it. It's not something, it's hidden, like I said in the name of this show here, hidden patterns. It's hidden because you don't have enough strings to see it. And I only picked up on it because I'm always actively looking for patterns in everything all the time. It's like a little obsession, because I'm looking to crack the code one way or another and make my job easier. And this did it, because I was thinking, okay, so this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Hey, wow, it's like I'm doing the same. I noticed I'm doing the same shape 3 times in a row. Like, oh wow, really cool. And so I started using that along with the sequence of sixes, but I would just turn around after a while. I don't have to exhaust the entire thing. So I'll just use maybe just 5 strings of it. I'll just go regular guitar on you here for a minute. From the regular E here, I'll do E minor as much as I can throughout this. So that's basically like the 2 whole step, half step shapes, and then the 3 whole step shapes. Right? And I would just kind of deal with that. Then maybe I'll move down a mode and be like, where am I here? Oh, I'm at the place that's 7. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 is the lowest note of the 3 strings of the whole step. So here I would do one of them. No, so 1, 2, 3 of those. And then I move to the half step, whole step. So I would just use fragments of it and just focus on the transitions and use them in chunks. So 5 strings is kind of nice, because even if you're dealing with the 3 strings in a row part, where that one shape actually does it 3 times in a row rather than 2, you know where you are in the scale. It makes it so much easier to know where you are in the scale. So that's why I wanted to spend a little extra time talking about this particular pattern tonight, because it makes it so much easier. Because now no matter what key you jump in, just start playing 3 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these. Just don't forget what order they go in and which fingers to use, and you're good as gold. I'm gonna play it one more time from the finger standpoint, okay? Just so you can kind of see that. All right, here's the whole thing again. Once again, you've got, it's 7 notes, okay? So you're going to see the whole thing. If you want, start from major, start in the middle of the 3 shapes of whole step. If you want minor, all right, you got that one. That's the 7, or sorry, major starts from the red number 1, and minor starts from the blue number 1 on this, okay? So it's the lower of the 2 whole step, half steps if you want to start from minor, okay? That's exactly how it goes, though. That is what you got. And so after that, it just starts repeating. So if you only see one of them at the end, that would have been the first of 2 or the first of 3. It depends on what shape you end up on, okay? Just wanted to point that out. Oh, Darren, sorry, missed your comment there. Always like 6s for learning scales. Something about the number of repeats. I agree completely. I love 6s and sextuplets in particular. It's also going to come in handy for something we talk about toward the end of the show, but I've already taken 23 minutes on the first one. But this is the more complicated one, because it's really, really, really hidden. You don't have enough strings to see it, but tonight I do, and so you can hopefully see it too. And you can start to see at least the shape that with 8 strings, you can start to see the same pattern you started on. Again, think about these as trichords. A trichord is a 3-note scale fragment. And just like chords, C-H-O-R-D, chord, when we strum chords, it's called a trichord, but it's one word, okay? So there's also a tetrachord, which is a 4-note scale fragment, a pentachord, which is a 5-note scale fragment, and the my favorite, hexachord, which is the 6-note scale fragment, which before I knew it was called the sequence of sixes, I was already calling it overlapping hexachords, because that's basically what I'm doing. I'll just take my 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There, right? That's how that was my nickname for it, so I could remember what I was doing, because they're just, you know, I learned very early on that a 6-note scale fragment is a hexachord, which is, as you're saying, Darren, very guitar friendly. Really works very nicely because you can get rhythmic with your scale runs. Okay, so that is everything I'm going to talk about with that one. Now, I am not going to leave you off with just one repeating interval pattern. This is one that you'll probably recognize, and actually, if you have 6 strings, you can see this one happening, and that would be for the minor pentatonic scale. Okay, so here's what we've got with that. It actually kind of moves itself down the fretboard. Now, first of all, let's look at the part you're probably used to. You're probably used to this being straight across the same fret. This is usually how we first learn it. The thing is, though, this is actually a weird adjustment, a byproduct of having the 2nd and 3rd string only 4 half steps apart. In reality, if all your strings were in fourths, that's what it would actually do. Okay, so you have that little thing, but we already have that on the other E string. So it's just the higher of those two, right? And then you have this other little shape in yellow there just below it. So that's got left out. But here's 5, and here's 5 more, and here's 5 more. It's basically the number of notes in the scale is how many strings we got to go across before we exhaust all the notes and play it again, you know, from the same place. So you can see that when you start your minor pentatonic scale, you know. E minor. I'm at the E string, just trust me on that one. 6th string, right? 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14. We know there's 3 strings in a row of that. And then we have these 2 at the end. This is the E string, which I already had another one of. Ah. So the thing is, what do you think is on the string below that? Another one of those, because there's 2 of those. And then there's 3s. There's 3 of those, so where the hell am I? Sorry, it is easy to get lost on this many strings, but anyway. So 2 of these, 3 of these. Anyway, it gets so low you can barely even hear the note anymore. But it's here. Right? It's a neat tool. I'm glad I have it. Anyway, but that way you can kind of see. I have 10 strings. I can go through the whole pattern exactly 2 times in a row. So yeah, that was, so 2 of these, 3 of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, right? Or 1 of these, which is the higher of the 2, 3 of these, and then 2 of these, then 3 of these, and then 2 of, or so it would have been 2 of these, but I got to go up because I'm out of strings, right? So I just want to kind of point out this is what's basically happening here. You're just, I'm going to actually point it out with the scale degrees next, okay? Because you got to see the fingers, but it'll make a lot more sense when you can see how it's the same actual notes, okay? So again, here it is. 1 and 3 are the notes that we typically start on when you do your standard minor pentatonic box. That's like A and C, right? Or E and G in this case, all right? And when we play it like that, again, this is what you're basically seeing, is the 5, 7, 1, 3 box. Those 2 strings that we do of that in a row get moved up because we're trying to compensate for the 2nd and 3rd string only being 4 frets apart, okay? So we have the 1 and 3, but we don't need it because it's already part of this pair of strings. And then you also have those other 3 that we would have jumped over. So 3 of them and 2 of them. That's it. This is easier. It's kind of like the other pattern, 3 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these, but we only have 3 and 2, and that's it. So every 3 strings, then 2 strings, you're starting the whole pattern over again. So that's the other hidden repeating interval pattern, okay? That said, I think it's time to go over to guitar practice tools. Here they are. What do you know? So we're going to get into another one. Now, let me just check my notes so I don't do this out of order. Where are my notes? There we go. Okay, so our next set of patterns. Okay, that first one is something I would probably consider like a shape repetition pattern or an interval repetition pattern. It's a hidden way that repeats across the strings, usually hidden because you don't have enough strings to see it starting over, but it does. So it's something that you pick up as you go across your 3-note per string scales a lot, and I recommend playing sequences, especially sequence of 6, but other sequences that use your 3-note per string patterns just a lot. And we're going to talk about a couple more of them at the end here too. I'm going to squeeze it all in because I'm determined. So don't you dare leave. Okay, so here we go. Next, okay, I have a couple examples, but I want to introduce like another family of hidden patterns. The next one here, and please chime in to let me know if this is helpful or if you need any further clarification. I'm happy to do this because I have been using these things for 20 years now, or some of them. The one I just showed you, I've known about that for 20 years. The first one, rather, the trichords repeating. I've been using it actively for 20 years, cranking out solos and runs and improvising stuff with it quite a lot. It's always come in handy for me. So if you want anything cleared up, please ask. Don't hesitate, because there's a good chance that if you're thinking something doesn't make sense right now, there's somebody else out there too, and I'd like to clear it up for you. It's free, so do ask. Or give me a thumbs up, or I don't know, give me a middle finger. I don't care. Just let me know that you know, either you understand it or you don't. Next are what I would call the start here and there patterns. Okay, and this is really geared a little bit more toward improvising and composing phrases. Okay, because I've found that a lot of the time, as guitarists, musicians in general, we have a strong habit to sort of start on the root note all the time, and that's not nearly as important as landing on a note that is in the chord, be that the root note or the third or the fifth of whatever chord happens to be playing right at the chord change or the moment of impact, okay, the ending of your phrase. So the first example, okay, I'm gonna use some more sixes here, okay, and I'm just gonna start on E, okay, since we're everything's in E minor today, arbitrarily, but it is sort of the guitar key, at least if you're on a 6 string. So here's the thing: if I play a 6-note run up to another note, that is 6 notes plus a final note, the note I'm actually trying to land on, what are the relationships between those two notes, the note I start on and the note I end on? All right, if I start on E and play a sextuplet run, 1 and 2 and 3 and, what is this note? Well, let's count through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a sextuplet run plus a final note will land me 1 note short of an octave. So whatever note that I start on, I'm actually going to end 1 note lower in the scale, but up an octave. So if I start on E, I'm going to end on D. If I start on B, I'm going to end on A. It's a pattern. There is an easy pattern you can find in there if you just do it once and look at the relationship between those notes. This is very, very useful. This one probably more than the other ones I'm going to show you, but I'm just going to show you how you can expand on this start here and there type of pattern and give yourself sort of a mental shortcut, because it's just something, if you know you're going to be doing sextuplets or 16th notes for X or whatever, use this with different kinds of sequences and patterns that you play on the fretboard to be able to create an easy prediction, because a lot of the time, like I said, it's more important to land on the final note at the right moment, like right at the chord change, so if I'm going from that 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, let's say 1, 2, right there, let's say, so you can kind of just do filler for whatever the first chord is, but the second chord of whatever your progression is, if you're doing a fast run into a note that's held out, you want that last note that's held out. That's the important note, because that's where you're going to resolve. That's the note that's going to sound like it is meant to be, or it's going to sound like you didn't think it through very well. So we want the former situation, okay? So if I do a 6-note run, there's 7 notes in the scale, so I haven't exhausted the entire scale, is what that basically means. So if I start on A, I'm going to end on G. If I start on F sharp, I'm going to end on E, right? So if I want to end on the root note of E minor, it's the old 3rd string on this one. There it is, sorry. If I want to end on an E, I'll go up a note in my head, but down in the lower octave. Same thing if I want to end on a G, and on the third of that, I need to start on an A. I need to start one note higher. Okay, you could think of it more like start there, end here. I'm reverse engineering the melody, but without having to go like, all right, here's a G, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the note below it. I can just do the quick logic. Okay, a 6-note run means I start one note closer to it within that octave, almost an octave away, but one note short. All right. So if I'm descending, I'm gonna end on one note higher. If I'm ascending, it's going to be one note lower. Okay, that's the kind of pattern. Again, this is not. I've never heard anyone talk about this stuff. I hope that it's at least occurred to some people, and they just kind of carried on with their business and just used it. But I worry that just this stuff has just not occurred to people. So I want to pass this on because I use this like crazy. Excuse me. Drink time. Let me know if this is making sense to you. From this is again, we're in more in the soloing, improvising, and composing zone now. But yeah, 6-note run means you're basically one note closer than an octave, one note short of an octave of wherever you started. At least from a diatonic standpoint, by the way. So if I do it from a minor pentatonic point, let's see what happens. It's going to be a little bit different because it's sort of going to be the third, but not always, because not the way that the interval patterns work. So in this case, it's like you kind of have 5 different options. If I start on the E, right, I'm sort of summarizing E and G as that. Now if I do it from the G, from G, it's going to be an A. And I guess the reason it ends on the third of the note you started on, if you start at the root note, is because of that skipped note. There's probably one other place in the scale where it's going to do that, which is the other place I have a minor third as the main interval, which is from 5 to 7. So let's do that from B. Yep, started on the B, ended on the D. In the other 3 instances, the other 3 notes of any minor pentatonic scale, you're going to end on one note higher in the key. So you're going to span a whole octave, because that is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. That's basically how minor pentatonic works out. You only have 5 notes, so your last note of the sextuplet run is actually the note you started on in the next octave, and then you're going one note further. So it's a different logic. And in fact, in minor pentatonic, the easy way to think of a sextuplet run is going to be octave plus 1. And the plus 1 is your final note, by the way. So I'm not excluding. It's actually 7. I'm aiming for 6 as the lead-in, and then a final note afterwards is like punctuation. Okay. So anyway, that's start here, end there, or start there, end here. But however you know what I mean. You heard it here. Either name. Copyright. No, anyway, but that's seriously. That's how I deal with this. I always think if I start here, then I end here. That's how I started off thinking. Start here, end here. That's what I was going to call it, but it sounds like I'm in the same place. So one of those words has to be there. Anyway, that's my logic here. I use this all the time to try to reverse engineer. Sometimes I really do just play the whole melody backwards and count from 0 as my final note. Move over one note in whatever direction. If I want a descending run, I'll move up a note and then do it backwards in ascending order. Or if I'm doing an ascending run up to some big climax high up on the range of the guitar, then I'll move down a note from 0 being my final note and count backwards until I reach the number of the rhythmic length. Okay, I was going to say that at the end, but I'll probably say it again at the end. Anyway, let's do our next run here. Okay, start here, end there, 8-note run plus a final note. Now in diatonic speaking here, that is going to be an octave plus 1. An octave is 8 notes, so your final note out of 8 is going to be the same note you started on, E, plus 1 note higher. So it's going to be an octave plus 1. This one's really easy when it comes to diatonic scales because, well, you just one more note, right? If I'm doing 8, that is an octave. That's why we call it an octave. Oct means 8. So 1 E and a 2 E and a. Oh yeah, and I do want to notice I was still in sextuplet mode there, and if you want to pick out what my specific mental, my major malfunction there was for a second, I was still in sextuplet mode in my head. So the one thing that this sort of, it helps you skip right to the part where you have to work on your accenting. I know I want, say, a sextuplet run, so I'm either going to do 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 kind of like 1, 2, 3 triplets, but like doubling them up, or just fast triplets, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. Doesn't matter. 6 plus a final note. That's how you start here. That's how you're going to end. 1 note short of an octave of the note you started on. In terms of an 8-note run, diatonic, you are going to do a whole octave. So you're going to be 1 note higher if you're ascending. So if I start on E, I'm going to be on F sharp. If I start on F sharp, I'm going to be on G, and so on. If I descend, I'm going to be 1 note lower. So it's an octave plus 1 in whatever direction you're going. Okay, that's the basic functionality there. So from A, if I start on A, I'm going to end on B. When you practice it, focus on the accenting that you want. If nothing else, just do 1E and a 2E and a end. 1E and a 2E and a period. Right? Unless you have a specific thing that you want to accent it to. So like 1 triplet, 2, or not 1 triplet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. All right, that might be how you do it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Right. So just to kind of give you the groove, right? That kind of thing. It's a common thing too. 3, then 2, then 3. 2, then 3, then 3. However you want to break up 8. There's not that many different ways to do it. That's pretty much the 4 ways to do it. 2 sets of 4. I guess 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You could have done that too. Starting from A, but I am using the E minor scale, by the way, in case you're wondering why I keep hitting an F sharp. Scott, what's going on, man? Good to see you here tonight. Darren, thank you for letting me know. Good. I find that this is a lot easier, so I hope that you adopt this and continue to save yourself some obviously some work on the back end. You have to kind of count through it as you're doing it. Okay, so that's the start here and their 8-note run, at least diatonically speaking. Once we start getting into pentatonic stuff, you're going to run out of strings pretty soon here. So, I mean, not on this one. You're going to be running through a lot of the strings, but straight. That's the 5th. It's actually 3 notes higher, though, because even though it is a perfect 5th from E to B, remember we have skipped over 2 of the notes here. So there's there's no second there. We've jumped over the second, and there is no 6th as well. So 1, 3, 4, 5, 7 is your minor pentatonic octave. So let's see. I guess it's 3 notes higher in the scale, but let's take a look. If I do it from, so it's not a perfect 5th there. I started on a B and ended on a G. That's like a minor 6th there. If I do it from A to E, from G, let's see, from G to D is a perfect 5th. Let's see, from D to A. So it looks like all of them are a perfect 5th, except for the place if you're starting from the 5, the B in this case, because then there's one place where that note, 3 notes higher, is actually what would be considered a minor 6th. I'm just using diatonic numbering for a pentatonic scale, so you can see where these notes line up. I've always done it that way because the minor 3rd might be the 2nd note in the scale, but you're locked in minor pentatonic forever if you don't have a doorway out. So I'm using the diatonic numbers. Hopefully that doesn't get too confusing. Anyway, yeah, so that's another one. I mean, and this is, I only have 4 of them written down: a 6-note or a sextuplet run, a 8-note or 16th note kind of run for 2 beats, a 12-note run, which is what I'm going to do next, and a 16-note run. Okay, with 12 notes, 2 notes per string for 6 strings. That's you're going to run out of notes. So if I start on an E, I'm going to end on an A. All right. Yeah. So that's 2 notes higher in the scale, plus a couple octaves. Right. So that is something to kind of keep in mind. Hey, you know what? Let's go back to the news thing. Yeah. Yeah. My fire thing came up again. Yes. See, I'm going to get some freaking mileage out of that after all. Fire. Sorry. Yeah, I spent 10 whole minutes on that, so I'm going to get some mileage out of it. Anyway, though. Okay, so that's your 12-note run. You're going to be 2 notes higher in minor pentatonic. Let's talk about how that's going to work in a diatonic scale. I'm going to start from E again, and I'm going to do it for 4 strings, 3 notes per string. You're going to be a 6th higher if you ascend. You're going to be a 6th lower if you descend. Okay, now a 6th is a big interval, all right? So I'm going to give you a little tip about this. A 6th is just an inverted third, okay? So another way you can look at this, okay, well, let's look at it this way, all right? A, B, C, D, E, F, F, right? Or count down from A, G, F, 2 notes lower. So if I start on E in E minor, go down 2 notes from that, C, that's the note I'm going to end on. It's closer. So if that helps you, use it. If not, use the other way. It's a 6th either way. But in this particular, that is what a 6th is a third lower instead of higher. When we talk about a third, we're typically just by default, that kind of means a third higher, 2 notes higher. But when we're talking about where am I going to end, if I start here, if I do a 12-note pattern plus a final note, it's going to be 2 notes lower in the scale. All right, so so that was D. I ended on a B. So E ends me on a C. Yeah. Yeah. Roughly the same note. My tuning's a little rough because this thing sat on the wall for about 2 months without being used. Anyway, so yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. If I start on an E, let's see. G, that's 2 notes higher. So that's 2 notes back in the other direction. So yeah, I guess maybe this will help. Whatever direction you're going, if you do a 12-note run plus a final note, your final note is actually going to be the note you would have played if you just went back 2 notes in the other direction. So if I ascend 12 notes, it's actually like going back 2 notes, descending, as far as the final note. So if you're looking for a shortcut to find out what your final note is, 12-note runs, just go a third down if you're going up. Or go a third up if you're going down. Okay, so anyway, it's weird, this is why these are hidden patterns, but there's always a pattern with this kind of thing. Your rhythm is defining how long a phrase you're going to get, okay? So I'll do one more, which is the 16-note run, and this is all just to flesh out the type of pattern. Again, it's a start here, end there pattern, okay? That's what we're going to call these from now on. Copyright, once again. Fireball. Anyway, so a 16-note run, okay? I'm going to start down here, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a third. I started on an E, I ended on a G. 2 notes higher. That's it. All right, so that's what it's going to be. Sorry. All the strings look alike in the middle there. Anyway. So anyway, I can kind of focus more immediately on the accenting of it once I can find the string I'm trying to play on. Okay, so that means that if I descend, I'm going to end a third lower. So if I start on an E, I'm going to end on a C. There it was. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. All right, so that's sort of how that works out, and I would encourage you to count your own phrases out from, you know, using the scales you like. It's still going to be like the same interval number, but it's going to be a little bit different from time to time based on like the actual specific interval. Is it going to be a major 7 or a minor 7? Is it going to be a major 6 or a minor 6? Major third, minor third. It depends on what note you're starting on and what type of scale you're actually using, because there's harmonic minor, natural minor, which we're doing today, major, harmonic major, melodic minor, Hungarian minor. You know, there's a lot of options. There are many kinds of diatonic scales, which are just, and there's also just, you know, Dorian and Phrygian, all of the modes of the existing natural major and natural minor scale, those 7 modes as scales on you know, in their own right. So it just depends on what type of scale you're doing and what note you're particularly trying to start on and end on. Most importantly, again, end on. All right, so that's our second family of hidden patterns. All right, so that's the start here, end here patterns, and we also did the shape repetition patterns, or the hidden interval repetition patterns is probably a better name for it, because again, you don't have enough strings, you won't be able to see it. If you missed that, watch this later, and yeah, be sure to watch this again later, because this is it. These are hidden in a way that it might not be immediately intuitive. The next and final thing I'm going to talk about are finger movement patterns. Okay, and this is where we're going to get into those other sequences. I'm going to be talking about 2 particular sequences, so this should probably round out right at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is great. I got 10 more minutes, and this is what we're going to do with it. Okay, so the first of 2 finger movement patterns, and this doesn't work for all sequences, but I like these sequences for this reason. It made these sequences easier for me to play when I realized that my fingers were moving in this order. So see if this helps you too. When I do things like the sequence of 4s, again, these are both 3 note per string patterns I'm going to show you here. And I want to talk about something real quick before I get into this, okay? When you deal with a 3 note per string pattern, I find it actually helps a lot to pretend you have a 3-finger hand, not 4. And again, not counting your thumb. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, just keep that in your back pocket. That's what we really call them. But when you're dealing with 3 notes per string, most of the time, that's your low note, that's your high note, and one of these 2 is going to be your middle note. So it's more like 2 different notes on 2 fingers on standby for the middle note. That's 2 and 3. Okay, so I'm going to call them low, middle, and high. Okay, so pretend we have a 3-fingered hand. One plays this is probably always going to play the low note. This is usually going to play the high note, and one of these 2 is going to play the middle note. Okay, so with that said, okay, when I play something like the sequence of 6, it's really straightforward because it's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. So watch. Let's start from A minor, because what the hell, it doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Obviously, I have to conform my hand to where the notes are as I move around. That was harmonic minor, because I felt like it, but it doesn't really matter. It's low, middle, high, low, middle, high, low, middle, high. Low, middle, high, 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 low, middle, high. That's no secret. That's all we're doing. It's just ascending, and I'm just basically repeating the string I was just on again before I move on to the next one. Okay, I feel like we should be on that one. Oh boy, it's just playing anyway. I'll just turn that back off. Ha, there we go. Okay, so yeah. Because why not? I can actually see the chat a little bit better this way. It's a little bigger on the screen, so that's the only reason. And also that lower thirds thing with the title of the episode was really distracting out of the corner of my eye because I kept looking up and thinking one of you guys commented. So anyway, so I'm going to point out how this kind of works with something else though. With the sequence of 4s, okay, this one used to throw me off a lot. With the sequence of like 3s, it's actually really easy because you just basically play 3 notes, then go back a note, and always just your next phrase starts on the note you just played right before. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, and so on. All right, and so on. All right, so that was really easy for me. I didn't have any problem with that one. I kept getting kind of tripped up on the sequence of 4s though, because as I was my initial way of examining it was play a phrase and then jump back 2 notes in the scale and play it from there. So let's see, it was like I'll start from A again here just for alphabetical simplicity, but A, B, C, D. Instead of, I kept wanting to go back 1 note, and it's not wrong, and it's not like it's not the sequence of 4s. It totally is. It's just that I knew I was skipping over certain phrases, and I wanted to be able to get all the phrases in there and also build motor memory around it. So what I was doing was I kept tripping myself up on 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, and so like inevitably I would always play 1 note back instead of 2 notes back, which it would throw me off until suddenly I recognized what my hand was doing. I started to feel something familiar happening, even though I was moving to different strings. Remember, low, middle, high. Watch. Sorry. Low, middle, high. Just finger-wise. Don't worry about the notes, but low, middle, high, 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 low. Sorry, I did harmonic minor. But anyway, it's just basically 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yeah. So yeah, 1, 2, low, middle, high, low, middle, high, low, middle, high, low, middle, high, and so on. It is a little bit of juggling because you're focusing on 2 completely different things at the same time, so it can be a little bit complicated. But this was actually the thing that made it less complicated for me, because jumping back 2 notes made me have to think much more actively about the theory of what I was doing rather than map out the notes and do the movements. Okay, and that's actually what I'm kind of trying to enable you to do with all of these tonight. Is I do want you to eventually map out all the notes and know where they are and know what you just played, but while you're getting there, you don't start with that on day 1. That's not where you get there. And this kind of stuff will allow you to map out where the notes are, get the movements going, build some amount of familiarity with it so you have motor memory to lean on, and be doing those movements, and then start to become more aware of the notes you're playing as you go. So that's my goal with this. That's why that's what it's always been. That's the benefit I have experienced from it, and so I hope to pass that on to you tonight by doing that. All right, so there's almost the same exact thing going on when we do the sequence of thirds with a 3-note per string pattern as well. So let's do that. I'm going to do this from A as well. And I will keep grabbing the wrong string over and over again. I am starting from the 6th string on purpose. I know I have 10 here, but I want you to be able to play this from your lowest string. Okay, so this one has a little bit of a curveball for you, only because of the first note. This, while I ascend the thirds, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5. So basically it's up 2 notes, back 1, up 2 notes, back 1, up 2, down 1, up 2, down 1, up 2, down 1. So we're kind of zigzagging our way up the melody. But here's the thing, okay? Aside from the first finger that I use, again, I'm still going to be using the low, middle, high finger identification system, okay? So, again, don't worry about it being called 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's still what they're called, but for this, pretend you have 3 fingers, and one of these 2 just does the middle note job, okay? So, the curveball is that you're still going to start on low, but as I ascend, the fingers are almost like they're doing descending. It's 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. So 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2. Eventually, once you start doing it on one string, it doesn't do that anymore. But anyway, let's look at that again. Watch my fingers. It looks like my fingers are descending. If I was just, it's basically, it's kind of like I was doing that, but I'm moving across the string, so I do have to do some slight variations in which finger, which fret, and stuff like that. But essentially, the hand movement is almost like I'm just doing one low note and then descending back down to it over and over again. All right, so watch again. Low, high, middle, 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 low. Whoops, lost my place there, sorry. Low, high, middle, low. Or basically 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2. Right, so yeah. So watch my hand. 1, and then so I'm going to try to do it almost like triplets now, just so you can kind of hear the 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to accent it that way too, just so you can kind of see the fingers going. One off note by itself. Oh. Okay, so I hope that kind of made a little sense. I know that it's a little obscure. Again, they're hidden patterns. Hidden. Anyway, that's it. I filmed myself right before the show just to make that, wearing the same shirt, holding the same guitar. So, you know, that's happening. Anyway, yes, I've been really in After Effects mode today. I did a lot of footage, so especially those other videos. Anyway, I hope this makes sense, but those are the 3 big families of hidden patterns I want to make you aware of. And hopefully, as I said, this will make it so that you can get the movements going, get yourself moving across the strings, take on chunks of the scale that don't necessarily require you immediately to have to be aware of every single note as you go, because you can do cool things like, work your way across something like this. 3 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these, and then repeat. Start from the middle of the 3 strings for the whole step shape for major. Start at the blue note there, the lower of the 2 whole step half steps for minor. But 3 of those, and you got that shape, 2 of those, and then that shape and 2 of those. Of course, you're going to run out of strings. You're always going to run out of strings, but this is how it would repeat over and over and over again. This is how the minor scale repeats. And it moves in fourths, by the way. So, if you're on 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2. It's actually kind of like 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 1. I'm sorry, 5, and then 1, which is what you started on. So notice that's 7 notes. That's the order that each string's first note starts on if you're ascending. So 1, 1, 4, 7. So it's almost like going 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5. Again, so 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5. That's 7. The next one is 1. All right, so that might have been a little weird. I'll throw that at you one more time here. In fact, I'll throw that at you one more time with the actual scale degrees on the screen. Take a look at where 1 is. Count there from the that 1 string minor starts there. See that? 1, 4. Look up. 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. There it is. That's the order because you're moving in fourths. Even though from 6 to 2 is a sharp fourth, it's still a fourth. All right. So this is sort of how it works out. That's why you have 3 of that shape, 2 of that shape, and 2 of that shape. And then that's what's going to happen. That's exactly how it repeats. So I use my 10 string to show you it starting over. This is the 24 string just for the diagram's sake, just so you can see how it repeats. But this is what it does on your 6 string. You're just you're enclosed with only 6 strings going on, you can't actually see it starting over. But that's what's going on. So remember, if you're doing a whole step shape, there's either 2 of them above or 2 of them below, or maybe there actually is 1 on either side. It depends on what note you're actually treating as the root note of your scale, of the major scale. Hopefully that helps. And hopefully I didn't just make this more complicated than it was before. But these have helped me. Like I said, I've been using some of these for 20 years as of this year. And they really do help a lot from a guitar standpoint, a not getting lost on a 6 or 7 or 8 string fretboard. Still got some distance to go when it comes to a 10 string, obviously, as you've seen tonight. But at least, you can kind of start to see the pattern. I don't get lost as much when I actually play this more often, but I've just been doing a lot more 6 and 7 string, which is why you've been seeing me with the 7 string in a lot of these last several episodes. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. These have been, I'm going to do it again. These have been hidden patterns. So thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate having you guys come out here, and I hope that you got something good out of this, and try using this for, if nothing else, mastering your fretboard and knowing your way around as you play scales. Use your sequences. This is very, very, very important. Seriously, just playing your scales up and down, that's not what this is for. Use them. Sequences are for that. If you don't already have it, get the book of sequences. If you're already my student, you have it. It's in the Total Artist Development System. It's in there. Just go right under. In fact, I'm going to show you one more thing. We're not done. Ha ha ha. I'm going to get out of here, video. We've seen it already. Okay, one other thing I want to show you. This is really cool. And Scott, you already know about this, but those of you who either are watching and are not talking in the chat and who are in my program, we've seen that already. I had pulled this up. Anyway, this is pretty well loaded. This is actually what the Total Artist Development System was originally. It's not getting any bigger. No matter what, this is the same size on the screen, so screw that. Okay, the Total Artist Development, I was going to zoom in on the logo, but the Total Artist Development System is a 3-pillar kind of pipeline, going from dealing with your musicianship to your ability to apply it on the spot and compose, but in other words, improvise, like actually just spontaneous composition, and also to use that to write complete songs, record them, and release them. However, there's a lot more to it than that, including going everything from actually defining your goals all the way to actually monetizing what you're doing. The entire site is now pretty well tagged, and so these are actually links. This is good old 90s web development stuff here, but this is an image map. So if I click on this, you're going to get the widest variety of stuff. But yeah, it's all in here. Lots and lots of stuff. Here is sequences. And so those of you who have access to the Total Artist Development System, here's the book of sequences right there. There it is. Just click on your musicianship. In fact, it's under a couple other categories too, but this one's under musicianship, playing ability, and knowledge. Okay, that's basically the immediate thing, your ability to actually play the instrument. Okay, it's also under apply your skills and knowledge somewhere. Let's give that a second to load. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's still right there. It's in a cup. This covers quite a few things. The sequences are relevant all the way from your basic musicianship all the way to the point of recording and writing albums. So it's in here, and you already have a copy of the book of sequences if you are already enrolled as my student. And if you're watching, there's actually a chance that you have it already. Darren, I know you have a copy. I hope that that's coming in handy for you. But this is what we're using tonight. I just scratched the surface. I think I used like 3 sequences. 4 maybe. I think I threw in the sequence of 3s for a second, but it's all in there, and much more. These are the ways you really use your scales, so please don't get caught in that typical rut where you're just reciting scales up and down the neck. This will help you. What I've shown you tonight will help you to do it without losing your places easily. But remember those little patterns, and again, it's not a race across the neck. Absorb it. Take the time to get to know it inside and out. It's not important how long it takes you to get there. It's important that you learn it inside and out. So take that extra time, take smaller chunks of the scale, pay attention to the transitions, pay attention to how many repetitions of the individual shapes that you have. But that's the thing that I would recommend. Don't try to race across the neck. That is not that's a false priority. It is not important. Okay, it is important. You'll eventually get there, but once you absorb the information, that's when it's time to do it. So just do a few strings at a time. Pay attention to 3 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these. or whatever order, if you start on the half step, whole step, then 2 of these, 2 of these, 3 of these. Get used to doing it from all the modes, because that's the only way you're going to actually encounter it on a normal guitar with 6 or 7 strings. You're not even going to see the starting over point. You're just going to recognize, oh, this is that place where there's 3 of these now, because I'm doing a whole step, whole step. So map your way out carefully. Use guitar practice tools, like use these shapes here. This is from the guitar practice whiteboard. I actually if you click on the red links, by the way, you actually get taken to a page where they're all the full fretboards are there, so you can kind of see all that. Use this stuff. Don't just have it in your account and never log in. These tools are very, very helpful. Everything you need really is right here at your fingertips. And if you don't have access to this, go to guitarpracticetools.com and get access to it. You get an entire month for free anyway, and it's only $10 a month after that. So seriously, everything you need to get really, really good is seriously right on this website. And I know because I put it there and I use it. These are the same tools I use to get as good as I got. And sorry for not looking as good tonight on the 10 string, because I'm rusty on this one, but I am quite fine on a 6 or 7 string, and I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm just confident because I know what I can do. And this is the stuff that I did to get there. So I hope that the benefits that I've had from the stuff I showed you tonight are also what you experienced. If you have other questions, you can always reach out to me at ShredMentor.com, and in fact, you can even fill out the form, tell me more about what you're trying to do, and I'll help you do it even sooner. So there's that. Anyway, I am actually, in fact, out of here now. Rock on, friends, and thank you so much once again for joining me. I will see you next week, and we're going to do some rhythmic syncopation next week, and that's going to be a lot of fun, because these are some things that also help me kind of get outside the box. And you can practice this without a guitar anywhere within miles of you. So don't miss that one. That's next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, so don't miss it. Until